one of the things that amuse me is how people freak out whenever I talk about some old news. And by internet standards, old means 1 month ago. So imagine when I talk about something that happened in 2017, that is absolutely ancient by internet times. But no, occasionally I will talk about an old news if either a Patreon of mine pays me to talk about it, because then it's like, hey, I'm being coerced. And the other one is when it's something important to talk about, when it's something that you can take a principle from that news and discuss it, because it's something that happens quite often. And I think this is it, right? A lot of people on Facebook in my country are posting this, and they're not understanding why it's that, the government is the worst when it comes to creating things. Okay, the private sector is superior in every way, and the government should handle the most limited things. Because here you have an example, right? A lot of people in Toronto were asking for stairs for old people, like people who have osteoporosis, people who are unable to walk properly. When they want to go to the park, they should have some stairs for these people. And the government says that these stairs would cost around $65,000 to build. But you have this engineer which built them for $550 to show them it's possible, and then dismantled them. So a lot of people are pointing out that the government is lying. They're saying that this is unacceptable. But a lot of people don't really look into why it is so expensive for the government to build something, anything literally. It's because when you're in your house and you want to build a set of stairs, you can do it tomorrow and you're finished in a week. When the government does it, they need to start an auction. Different private companies are going to go there and try to partake into the auction. Usually it complicates things if there's a little bit of corruption. I don't know if Toronto is a corrupt system or not, but you might have like a private company that tries to bribe or pay under the table the mayor or the people that are dealing with the auction in order for them to win the auction. So now things are complicated a little bit more. After you finish that, you need to start doing with the paperwork, and usually every signature and stamp costs money, because when you take that paper to a lady that's working for the government, she has to pay a wage. So, extra dollars added. And then you have to get like a safety commission that goes in and inspects the area. You have to get, people that have a degree in engineering to make sure that the stairs you're creating are going to be adequate. And in a way, it kind of makes sense, because if you build some stairs into your house and the stairs break and you break your foot, that's your problem. But if the government builds some stairs and they break and someone breaks their foot, well, then that's the government's problem, and it's going to be like massive media scandal, right? So the government wants to make sure that these things don't happen, so they need to go through all the safety and all the regulation. This costs money, because these are people that are coming there. They have diplomas, they went to university, so they expect big pay. And, all they're doing is they're going, yeah, this looks legit. And it usually costs thousands of dollars in order to pay these people. And then the actual work starts. And, like when you work for the government, you're not working for your dad. Usually, like, these companies have like 3 or 4 other projects, on hand. So they're not going to hurry up with the project. So this is why when governments do things, they do it slowly. And they also do it in a way that's very costly. And again, the stairs this guy built, they seem to be wooden stairs, Like, I don't know how they're going to resist the rain. Like after 3 years of rain, like, are they going to rot? Is the wood going to become more flimsy? I'm not an expert, I don't know. But again, like, the government has to take these things in consideration. So, it's not that necessarily the government is lying when they say it's $65,000 to build the stairs, even though maybe they did exaggerate the sum a little bit. Like, I'm not from Canada, I don't know how much the services cost over there. And that's another thing, like the services costing. Like, you go in my country to get a stamp, it's going to be a price. You go into Canada to get a stamp on some papers to make them official, the price is probably going to be 100 times higher. Even though, like, literally it's the same activity, you just take a stamp and, like, that is it, that's what you're doing, and the price is going to be different. Hell, in my country, you can go to some state officials that, legislate papers, and they're like between private and public, So you can go at one and they're going to ask you one price, and go at another, it's a completely different price. It's like, holy shit, like, like these people aren't lawyers or something that they need to use their brain in order to come up with a case. No, they just put stamps on paper. Like, it's the same activity. Why is it more costly on one hand and less costly on the other? But anyway, I digress. The thing is, the government needs to also make sure that the safety are kept. Now, if you go into a hospital and you work in a public hospital like I did, you will notice the hassle of just buying one microscope, or when something breaks and they want to order something else. Again, it's the same shit. Like, they have to first justify it to the manager, like why they need that piece of equipment so badly. And the justification is different than in the private sector. Like, in the private sector, the question is, like, is it profitable for us? So, for example, if this was a private park, they would go like, how many old people do we get? Are these our best customers? And if the answer is no, then they're not going to make stairs. If the answer is yes, then it's like, okay, let's make some cheap stairs so that they can enjoy going into the park without hurting themselves. So that is the question in the hospital as well. It's like, in a private hospital, let's say you can get a microscope that can see Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and you can put the diagnosis way faster than just making a culture of this, right? So you can literally save people's lungs from getting scarred by the disease. And in a public hospital, it's going to be the question of how many people are we going to save, like how many people can benefit from it. And in a private hospital, it's going to be like, can we make any profit out of it? Like, is it really profitable for us if people diagnose it faster? So, first of all, the question of profitability versus the state of how many people can use it. Secondly, it's going to be making the auction. Thirdly, it's going to be the corruption if you're in an Eastern European state. And after that, it's going to be like all the bureaucracy and all the loopholes and all the signatures and stamps that you need to go in order to approve it. So yeah, like I see it in my country, people trying to do the same. Like they are going to find like a street which has some holes in it, and they're going to pitch in money in order to plug that hole. And then they get sued by the city state because why are you doing this, right? You're not allowed. You need license. And, like the city state does it because the city state itself needs licenses. And, like if someone, for example, like you do a shoddy work by pouring the concrete over there because you poured something cheaper, or you didn't respect the temperature that's outside where you need to pour the concrete, and someone drives a car over, your patchwork, your patch job, and breaks a wheel, then, they're going to sue the city hall. They're not going to sue the person who did it. And the person who did it might not even have the money to pay for the damages that the person with the car took, Because the thing is, like, when you're driving and you see a hole on the road, you avoid it. But when you're driving and you see the road fine, and then you go on the patch job and go like, and, your tire falls off or some shit, then it's more difficult to predict these things. So yeah, and by the way, I'm not, like full ANCAP land, but in my opinion, the less the government does, like the less it's charged to do, the better it is, because the government doesn't do things properly. Every time they do something, they drive it into collapse, because again, they don't look at the profitability of a thing. They look at how many people can benefit from the thing. And that is the main difference between the government and the private sector. And by the way, like, the government always uses a private sector. It's not like the mayor is going to go out and build the stairs himself. No, it's like going to apply to the private sector, and they're going to pay the private sector some money in order to do something. That's literally how it works. So, yeah. Do let me know what you think, though. Really interesting. Did you thought about this? Did you try to analyze the problem from different angles? Really curious. I know that this video is going to be shown to a lot of Romanians in the future when they go like, oh, why can we build stairs for like $50 and the government asks $1,000 for it? This is why. Now, it's up to you to think if it's right or not, or justify right. I'm just giving you the explanation from behind the curtain, because I did the work in a public hospital, so I understand how these things work. And I assume it's exactly the same for building stairs in a park. There's absolutely no difference. There's also like two other things, because people will say, well, now the government is wasting money. Usually, like, the budget is done for a year, and if the city doesn't spend all the budget, they have to give it back. So it's usually like at the end of the fiscal semester, or whatever your country system has, they're going to start, just throwing in money and making a lot of shit because it's like, well, if we don't use it, we lose it. And another thing is when the government, like if you're in a European country, might get money from the EU, then they start spending like crazy, and like people are going to ask like, why are they, I don't know, like building stairs in a park when the roads still need fixing? It's like, well, because probably there was a European project to beautify the parks in European nations, but there wasn't a European project to improve the roads. That's literally why. Because again, another question that I keep hearing from people, like, why are they doing this and not that? And it's good to be informed, because at least when you complain, you actually know what happened. You actually understand what is going on behind the curtain. Hopefully you like my channel. Please subscribe if you do. Please recommend my videos if you do. I shouldn't beg you to do this, but the algorithm shows that the election year is coming, so my channel isn't very kosher. Steven Crowder, I understand, also exposed this, and his half-Asian lawyer fixed it. I don't know if it was just for him or for other people, but feel free to go on Steven Crowder's Twitter and see what it's all about. Till then, see you guys later.